Hey guys, this is John Anik from the UFC. You're watching the Fight Week Show. Please subscribe. Not now, but right now. Subscribe to the Fight Week Show. We'll see you guys on the road soon.
What's happening, Fight Week fans? Hope you guys are doing well. Today, we sit down with another killer out of Cage Warriors, Mr. Sam Creasey. How you doing, my guy?
I'm very well, thank you, my friend.
Oh man, I mean, you're one of the most exciting fighters out there on the Cage Warrior scene, as a flyweight, because I know your division your division is crazy. They got some crazy killers out there, but to be the king of flyweight in Cage Warriors, how does that make you feel? How does that experience, having your hands raised and holding the strap? How does all of that make you feel? Talk us through it.
It feels pretty good, to be quite honest. Obviously, it's nice to have a bit of recognition with the belt around my waist and that. But realistically, I've known that I'm very, very good for a long time without letting it get to my head too much. I've experienced a lot in the sport. I've trained with a lot of people. I've been around the world training with people, and I know that my level is at the top of the sport. So the belt is a nice recognition of that fact, and I get to say I'm number one to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. You train out of Elite TC with the 16
No, RDA Bucks.
RDA box. My bad.
Yeah.
I
That's
apologize.
right.
You train out of RDA box, and you got a record of 16-4. My question is, with the experience that you have inside the cage, what keeps you motivated, driving you forward so relentlessly to get to the point that you've got to now?
Perfection. I'm in the gym every day. I'm in the gym the day after I fought. I'm in the gym all the time, searching for perfection. That's unattainable. There is no such thing as the perfect fighter, right? You will never attain perfection, but that's an endless journey that you're on then, that you can keep on progressing towards. So that's the kind of the way I look at it. The competition is on the way. I get fights. I perform very well in one. I perform less well in another, but my progression through my skill is constantly chasing perfection.
This is so important because when you look at a lot of fighters in your position, and and this is across the spectrum from amateur going pro and the elite, right, all the way to the point, all the way to the top. They all seek that bit of perfection that you're talking about. But from what I hear from a lot of the fighters that I've spoken to, you never go into the cage 100%. You guys are always carrying some kind of niggle, some kind of injury, some kind of war wound. How do you mentally lock that away and still go and perform and not show your opponent where you're hurting, that type of stuff? How do you guys do that? Because it's unfounded and crazy for people like us, like civilians. I call us civilians, you know what I mean? that don't get into the into the range of what you guys do. But how do you do that? How do you cope with that?
That's very true. I don't think I've ever gone into a fight without an injury. I'll give you an example. Just this weekend, that performance in the warm up, my ankle went. So
oh dear.
I'm bouncing. I'm moving around on the mats. They're different mats to what I would normally train on. And I felt a sharp pain go through my left ankle. Tried to ignore that. It came back, and then it kept on coming back throughout. And in your brain is telling you, okay, it's time to panic. How have you got injured in the warm up? reality is, and once you allow yourself to, to deal with those thoughts, you're gonna have a fight anyway. Yeah,
Right.
you've been injured however many times throughout your career. He's probably going to kick you a lot harder than your ankle's hurting right now.
Right.
And you kind of get to that point, or I get to that point anyway, where I'm like, I've done this however many times now. What is going to happen in the fight will play out, and it doesn't really matter what has happened here. We're going to go in there and do our utmost to win.
Fantastic. This is always something I've always wanted to ask you fighters, and I've never actually brought this up before, so I'm going to ask you anyways.
Go ahead.
Cauliflower ear is something
Yeah.
when I see, I respect the hell out of it, and it's something that I always say to other civilians like me. You see someone with one of those, cross the road. You don't want none of them problems. Like, so, like, what's the whole process to even getting one to the point where it gets the way it gets, and the pride that you guys wear it with as well? Because to me, it's almost like a badge. It's almost like a badge of honor. You know what I mean? Like in your case, I'm not sure whether you've got one. You don't look like you've got one there, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you know.
I got two collies.
Oh, there you go.
I got two collies.
please talk us through that, please.
So I mean that you can get a cauliflower ear a bunch of different ways, really.
Right.
My brother does the same thing. He does MMA as well. He's a professional fighter, and he's been training a little bit longer than I have, and he hasn't got cauliflower ears.
Right.
So I guess it can it can affect some of us worse,
Yep.
and some others not so at all.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was the way I was wrestling, when I would be grinding my head into somebody's hip, trying to take them down. That
Right.
eventually has caused enough damage to my ears to cause inflammation where the blood has got in. And then I got my cauliflowers quite early in my career when I had no idea what they really were.
Right.
So I went to the doctors. They told me you can get plastic surgery if you want. I thought, well, that would be pretty pointless because I'm going to carry on doing this and I'll have to have it again. So I got them drained, and they're somewhat out of shape now, but you can get them from the punches as well. I
Okay.
know quite a few people have got those, and I guess for a lot of people they are a mark of, like, I don't know, martial arts or even rugby.
Yeah.
Um,
Some form
but
of combat sports.
yeah, I forget about them most of the time, and it would only be when somebody notices my ears, they'll ask me straight away, "Oh, do you play rugby or do you fight?"
Yeah.
You know, and it's a
Like
nice little conversation starter.
yeah. It really is. And again, even with rugby guys, like you still don't want them problems, you know what I mean? So
No, those are tough guys.
so tough guys, aren't they? Look, we spoke about your record earlier on, and I wanted to ask you, I mean, with the losses that you have, what did you learn? Because I know a lot of fighters talk about learning from your losses, not being married to them, but learning from them. Like, what are the lessons that you learned from them losses that you got your record?
Well, each one for me taught me something slightly different. My first loss as a pro, I was unbeaten at the time, and I was on a nice streak, and a show came up. I was desperate to get on there. I begged and begged to get on there last minute, and then I managed to get ill in the middle of the fight camp, which then made the weight cut significantly harder and the training significantly harder. But I put that to one side and dealt with it, and then performed terribly, as would be expected.
Yeah.
So that was my first loss. My second one was the first time fighting for the title. Changed a lot of things in my training for that camp, which you know, in theory, had sounded quite along the lines of the right thing to do. But now we've go back and you have a look at things and you understand this was a mistake. To cut this out was a mistake. To do this was a mistake. And then that's taught me that, you know, my training is very good. My lifestyle is very good for this sport, and I shouldn't be changing anything. You know, I am what I am. I don't need to change a great deal of things to be at my very best. But the losses have just taught me many different lessons.
Yeah.
My last loss, take away the emotions. Don't fight like you don't care.
Oh God, that's a hell of a lesson, really. When you
Very much.
when you think about it. We've just spoken about maybe the not so nice part. Let's talk about the nice part. Your finishes, or you know, your wins and that. You've got finishes of every kind, all types of finishes, and that goes to speak to how well-rounded of a fighter that you are. But how would you describe your style in martial arts, and which style did you start with first?
So I'm a late comer to the sport and to martial arts in general. I don't think I started until I was 21.
Wow.
And probably the biggest skill that I have, or the biggest attribute I have, is that I am well-rounded. I don't have a base. My base is MMA. If you separated all the skill sets, I would be okay at each one separately, but I wouldn't be the best. But when I put them together, that's when, you know, I am very good. That's when I'm a world beater. When you put the whole of the MMA game together, that's where people really struggle against me, because I don't have an area there that I find as a weakness. You know, I'm very comfortable wherever the fight goes. And I found, especially early on in my career, that if they came at me with a specific game plan, for example, they've got to take me down, they're going to grapple me in the first round. If they can't get me down within the first minute, 2 minutes of trying, I can feel them like mentally wilting, because you know they've spent a long time in training camp preparing to do this one thing to me, and if they can't do it when they're at their very strongest at the start of the round, I feel them just starting to disappear mentally. And you know, I've taken advantage of that a lot in the past, where I can place the fight wherever I want, and it doesn't bother me where it ends up.
That's crazy. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all day, and just listening to some of the facets and the mental warfare that actually goes on during the fight. And I just wanted to moonwalk back a little bit to when you said you started. You said you started at 21, right?
Yeah.
Coming into the sport at 21. What made you decide to jump into this crazy sport at the age of 21? Like, what made you choose this?
That was my brother. So my brother had been doing martial arts, just a little bit of kickboxing before that, and then he'd started to watch the UFC.
Gotcha.
He tried to show me it a few times, and I was not interested in it. At the time, I thought the only real fighting there was boxing. In my deluded somewhat view. He took me down to the gym, which had just opened up. He kicked my ass. Everybody kicked my ass. I spent my first 6 months getting absolutely dominated every single night of the week. And, you know, it eventually lit a fire in me. And I think I lost my first fight, and I realized I don't like to lose.
Okay.
So then
That's
you
a good
couldn't get me
indication.
out of the gym. And then, you couldn't get me out of the gym after that. I was in there, you know, as much as I possibly could be, obsessively working to get better. And, we've kind of just fallen into this position by accident, perhaps. But I felt about halfway through my career or training that this is probably what I should have done as a child. This is something that was missing very much from my life as a child, that would have helped me with a lot of stuff in my life. Probably would have helped me with my education as well. If I'd have had this to fall back on almost. I think that's why, like, I try to get as many people involved in martial arts or sports or a hobby or something like that as possible. I think it can just be so beneficial to you as a youngster coming up and then growing up in this world.
Fantastic. I've seen you, working out at home, working out in the gym. What would be, for people that can't always get to the gym or make the time to go to the gym, what would you advise to be? What would your best advice be for a form of training or drill that they could do at home that's still gonna give them some really desired effects, if you like?
Okay, so if we're talking martial arts,
Yeah,
I shadow box a lot, and it's very simple. You get in front of a mirror, yeah, watch yourself, watch what you're doing, and be critical of yourself. Go on, then watch a video on YouTube and see how a boxer boxes. Okay,
yeah.
try and keep the tightness of that. Try and keep the hand speed of that guy. That's impossible. But it gives you something really to work on, and you can improve then, rather than shadowboxing with no goals almost. People very, very quickly fall out of the motivation involved in that. But if you can see yourself in the mirror and you can see what you're doing, and then you can record what you're doing, a week later you do the same thing, another week later you do the same thing, you see how this tightens up, that tightens up, you feel better, you feel sharper. I mean, it's very useful for me, and I'm a pro fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. For that piece of advice there for our viewers. This is a two-part question here. What is your least favorite part of the sport, and what's your most favorite part of the sport? MMA.
Probably the weight cutting part is probably my least favorite part. It's been very uncomfortable in the past. I've pretty much got it down to a very specific science now. I know how long I need to get on weight, and I'm within target of about 20 minutes either side. So
Right.
I'm good there, but it's never comfortable. And if there was something we could do that that takes that out of the sport to make it safer and stop having to go through this process, that'd be ideal. But I can't think of a way to do it at the minute that's going to actually be safe. And then my favorite part of the sport, I love training. I love being in the gym every day. I love meeting new people on the mats. I find myself socializing more upon the mats, finding out about people's cultures, finding out about their beliefs, having very deep debates, conversations that I probably wouldn't have anywhere else apart from on the mat. And once I've shared that, I don't know, the intensity of training and so forth.
That's incredible. I wanted to ask you this question right here. What are your thoughts on McDojos, and and how can we avoid them? How can fighters avoid them? I see you laughing, but this is a real problem.
Yeah, I've been approached by a few people. Yeah, on occasion about teaching me some of the magic that is involved. It's unfortunate. It really is, and it's dangerous for a lot of people. I fear for people who can be taken on by some of these charlatans. They they can put ideas in people's head that are just so unrealistic. It's terrifying, because if that person then goes out on the street and thinks, I have the capability to do something like this, it can be a very sad story very quickly. And like I said, it's very dangerous. They shouldn't be able to. There's a time and a place for like movement and training, whatever that may involve. But when people are thinking they're learning a real self-defense, and it is just magical tricks, becomes a bit of an issue then.
Gotcha. I know you've got some real aspirations to get to the top of the sport, and applying your craft in a promotion like UFC. And it's a lot of fighters' dreams. A lot of fighters out there. It's almost like the Champions League of that sport, if you like. What do you have to do, and why? What do you have to do to get the recognition and the call up from a promotion like UFC? Because in my opinion, I think you're right up there skill wise. I've gone back and checked out your stuff. You're right up there with some of the best that they got. You could rub shoulders with those guys. What do you have to do?
If I'm honest, I don't know. It is very much if it's going to be, it will be. I know I'm at the same level. I've trained with many fighters around the world and that who are already in the UFC. I know I'm at their level already. I know, especially in the flyweight division, the division's not strong at the minute. You've got some guys at the top, but any day of the week, that anybody within the top 20 could finish somebody in the top 5.
Yeah.
And I feel like, if my opportunity arises, I'll take it with both hands, and I'll go into the UFC and I'll show them where my skill set's at. And I think I have a different skill set to a lot of the UFC fighters who are there at the minute, and I can cause a great deal of problems for anybody in the flyweight division.
Absolutely. I mean, whether you get there today, whether it's next week, whenever you get there from this journey, we're gonna be right there with you. We're gonna be rooting for you. We're always gonna be supporting you in all your endeavors, and we're gonna be promoting you, pushing you, and all of that good stuff. So
Thank you.
that being said, you definitely have that backing from us, because we know you're a solid human being, and that's first and foremost, and a top fighter, and it should be recognized as such. I just wanted to give you your flowers, on that point there. It's a great weekend for English fighters coming this weekend. Let's talk about all the other guys that that we got here in the UK. Leon Edwards facing Kamaru Usman tomorrow. We're wearing the hat One More Sleep. It's One More Sleep tomorrow, and all this carnage is gonna happen. Based on their first fight, I just wanted to ask you about, based on their first fight and how it went down between those two, and both of them haven't lost since then. What's your take on this fight? How it might pan out, and who's gonna have the hands raised?
My heart says Rocky. I've trained with Rocky like back in the day, like a long time ago.
Yeah,
and
I met him as well in Wolverhampton.
Yeah, he's such a good man, but
Great
he's
guy.
so terribly underrated, and he has got such a well-rounded skill set. I don't doubt Usman as well. But I feel like since they fought last, Rocky's like he's come on so much, man. His grappling is so underrated. His striking is so sharp, so crisp. And I think Kamaru will have the advantage in the wrestling, but is he going to want to get caught in that clinch beforehand? What if he doesn't get the takedown nice and early? He's going to get stuffed with a couple of those elbows. I feel it. I feel it's Rocky's time.
Yeah, Rocky's so devastating in clinches as well, especially when it's exiting of the clinch. You can expect one of them bad boys coming at you, and he don't miss. He don't miss when he throws them in. He don't miss when he throws them. So, Usman's gonna have to be in my opinion, at his very best to take on this version of Leon Edwards. I just think he hasn't lost in 7 years. It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's it.
So yeah, it's a fascinating fight to see. The other one on there, that this is a little bit closer to your division, but it's still at 135. Jose Aldo and Merab Vashvili. This is a little bit closer to where your division is. For me, Aldo is like the greatest. Is a legend for me. In my opinion. I mean, what him and Edin Barao used to do back in them days was ridiculous. It was unheard of. But where he is now, what's your take on where he's trying to get to in the bantamweight division, chasing the title at the age he's chasing it now?
I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it. He's the only fighter I've seen who has carried on so far past what everybody expected him to, and not lost it.
Yeah,
I don't see. Merab is very good. He's a great grappler, but Aldo's takedown defense, his boxing is so crisp. I feel like if he just lets go and some of those leg kicks once again, we all loved them from the WEC days.
Yeah.
It could be an early night for Merab, but if not, I think he's just going to keep him at range with those nice long straight shots, bring that knee up every now and then, scare Merab away from shooting too early, too freely, and his takedown defense is fantastic as well.
Yeah.
For me, I would love to see him get back to the title at bantamweight and then sail off into the sunset.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth there, and I'm certainly with you on your thought process with with that fight. I want to see Aldo do some great things in this division, because I still feel like he was robbed of a rematch when he lost to Conor. It's like a grievance. It's still burning in my soul. For what he done for that division, I just thought the very least he deserved out of that was. I know the way he got finished was so bad, but for what he done in that division and for how long he held the title, is the very least he could have got. And I felt like the UFC could have at least forced Conor's hands to make that happen for Aldo. But hey, that's by the by. The other fighter that I wanted to talk about is Michael Venom Page. He's just dipped his toes into the bare knuckle fighting world. What's your take on it? And do you think he do well? You do well at especially fighting somebody like Mike Perry that loves a little bit of punishment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one for me because it's in a ring, right? So it changes the dynamics completely. Michael is so good with his movement on the outside, so elusive. But a lot of that is also to do with you think he's going to kick you any second or flying near you. It does change slightly when you only do have to worry about the hands. And I feel like if he lands early, it could be over really quick. But if he doesn't find that shot early enough, it could be a real slugfest with Mike Perry. He's very good at having a war and making it ugly.
He loves it. He lives for that.
And I hope Michael gets him out of there really early, lands one of those beautiful shots. I just feel it may be a little harder than we imagine.
Yeah.
Simply because you take away a couple of his tools and put him into a ring instead of the cage, it changes a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's just like you said, with awareness, measurements, is because one thing MVP is really good with, and I don't know if he gets enough credit for his movement.
Yes.
Just his movement alone in the cage, because he's got so much cage awareness of where he is,
Yes.
where he's at, and how to get out of the way, all of that stuff. But being in the ring just changes that dynamic a little bit.
Definitely. I think the ring with the corners. I mean, I think when Sage Northcutt went to ONE FC and got knocked out in his first fight, I feel like the reason it was quite so devastating was because he'd not fought in a ring in however long. He didn't know how to deal with the movement, with the ropes, with the corner, and Cosmo obviously does know how to deal with that.
Yep.
He's been doing that all his life.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel that's something he just needs to worry about a little bit.
Got you. Talking about rings, we got Anthony Joshua and Usyk. This is a rematch. We saw how Usyk got the victory in a very impressive fashion. I'd say I was really impressed with his performance, especially coming from a cruiserweight sort of division to come and fight a heavyweight, accomplished heavyweight like Anthony Joshua. But a few things has changed since that last fight. We've had the war between Russia and Ukraine, where it's disrupted Usyk's preparation and he had to put the gloves down, put the uniform on, and go and defend his country. And AJ is changed. He's changed camps and changed a few things in his repertoire. So these two coming back together again tomorrow. All of this is happening. We're spoiled for combat sports tomorrow. What a weekend is going to be. But lastly, how do you see this fight panning out, and what do you think get the hands raised?
I think if AJ's smart, this could be his chance to get this fight back. I think like preparation won't have gone swimmingly for Usyk. I think obviously a lot of things out of his control will have made this a somewhat difficult camp. And I think he just needs to know you're not going to outbox this guy. You're not going to outbox him. You're not going to outskill him. There's a reason why he moves the way he does. He's so accomplished in his style. What you got to, for me anyway, in my opinion, he needs to go back to what he's good at. He needs to bully him. He's the bigger man. He needs to use the ring, not try to outbox him at times, but just big shots, couple of shots, cover up, lean into him, make him tired, use his weight properly. And I feel like he can take the victory. Perhaps not in the way that we'd all love to see a beautiful knockout, but I think with a guy like Usyk, who's so clever, such a tactician, you're not going to look great ever against him.
He's done that to a lot of fighters, a lot of very good fighters, and just made them look bang average. Yes. So yeah, you're absolutely right on that. There's just some fighters out there. I'll give you an example of in mixed martial arts, Wonder Boy. If you want to beat Wonder Boy, you're never going to look good beating Wonder Boy. No. It's going to be a boring.
Yes.
You just trying to do the bare minimum just to get the job done. No one's ever. I think the only one that's looked good beating Wonder Boy was Showtime Pettis. That's it. That's it. And he was getting his ass handed to him before he even done that. If if people really think back to it. But Wonder Boy is one of those guys. You never look good winning against him, and he's done that to a lot
his striking
is
so far beyond what most of the strikers in the UFC have. It's got to be ugly. It's got to be enough to spoil his movement. Just the same as Venom. Yeah. You're not going to outstrike him the majority of the time. You got to do what it takes to kill off his game which may be just get a hold of him and stop him moving so much.
Crazy. On the point of talking about UFC here, and I'm very, very conscious of the time. I know we've gone above the time there, so I'm gonna try and get you out of here as soon as possible. But I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite UFC fight of all time? You know, what fight sticks in your mind? Your favorite UFC fight?
Well,
I'll tell you mine after.
It's so fresh because he's just retired.
Right.
But Rory McDonald and Robbie Lawler.
Ooh,
That was that was. I mean,
that's
if you look at both fighters since, it's not been great for their careers. That's
no,
probably taken a few years off of them, to be
yeah.
honest. But that was one where you're on the edge of your seat the whole time. That's if you wanted to go out in style, that is the way to go.
Yeah.
That's my favorite fight.
That's a really good one. Mine is a little bit more recent. Even till today, I look at that fight. I've watched it 10, 15 times because I love it that much. It's Jean Weili and Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Oh yeah. That was
Oh
a
my
great fight.
days! I can't tell you how much like that fight every time I go, and it always reminds me like this is how Joanna looked going into the octagon, and this is how she looks coming out of the octagon after that fight. That fight's crazy. I loved it. They went back and forth, relentless.
Yeah.
Both of them didn't back away from each other, and like you said, you know, probably taken away. Probably it's why Joanna went into the last fight and still fought the way she did and just thought, I just don't have it no more. And she ended up hanging up the gloves because those type of fights it takes something away from you as as a person, as it takes something, you know what I mean? It takes something out of you. You leave something in the octagon from those sort of fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Great fight. But yeah, it does take. It'll go down in history.
Yeah.
They'll look back at that fight forever. But maybe it's time for somebody to hang up the gloves there.
Yeah, for real. And thank you very much for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic and generous with your time, and you know what I mean. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully down the line as well, we can bring you back on the show and
Absolutely.
talk more MMA. And before you go, do you have anything you'd like to plug? Merch, upcoming fights? I know you got a new YouTube channel. Please tell us all about it. Plug your stuff. You got the floor.
Yes. So just a shout out, quick. First off, to all my sponsors. You guys back me 100%. Have for a long time. A lot of you, and I'm very, very grateful. All of my supporters out there. I hear you cheering every fight. I see all of your messages, and just love from my heart, and that for all my family, my wife, my daughter, you guys, I know how hard it is to go and watch me or to be around me when it's close to the time to fight, and that, and I couldn't ask for any more from you guys. And then just check out all my social media channels and that. If you want to get in contact with me, ping me a message on there. I'm pretty open to a conversation with anybody. I'm starting up my YouTube channel now. Just a little bit of probably some diaries, a little bit of training, some conversations, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, fantastic. Please, everybody that's watching, go and support Sam. He's a proper gentleman and a solid guy, man. And a very accomplished fighter. As his belt tells you all about that. You don't need to look further on that. And Sam, you've been fantastic today. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoy all the. You're not the one in that's going to be taking any punches this weekend. You're going to be watching and enjoying every minute of it. I'm sure
Absolutely.
you are. Yeah. So please go and enjoy your weekend, and big up to your cat. We didn't say, I don't want your cat coming for me, man. You know what I mean? It looks warm. It looks warm on your Instagram, and big up to your cat as well, man. Yeah, man. And that's it from us on the Fight Week show, and on to the next video. Hasta la vista. Salute, people.
Yo, guys, this is Adrian Yanez telling you to use those handles. Hit, click, like, and subscribe. Fuck yeah, dudes. If y'all don't do it, man, fucking catch the hands, bro.